Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Let's get the camera set up. Alright, in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I prep with mason jars and 1 gallon bag, Mylar bags, or smaller. Just kind of my thought process with it. I'm hitting two birds with one stone. The easy answer is I can put preps away in a smaller amount. Those of you that have been watching my channel, y'all know these videos started just about my freshman year of college. Now I'm about a year and a half done with college. And so it's one of those things of most of the other preppers you see on these channels tend to be older people. The ones that come to mind is Bear Independent. He looks like he's in his 40s. Pastor Joe Fox looks like he's in his late 50s, early 60s. Alaskan Granny's probably around the same age. Canadian Prepper, City Prepper, Urban Prepper, they all look like they're in their late 30s, early 40s. I don't see very many people my age doing this. And it's probably because most people my age don't really have the funds or the thought process of doing this. They're trying to go to concerts and, go on vacations and things of that nature. And it's like that when preparing for a lot of things. Most people my age are not the kind of people, putting a down payment on a car. They're not the kind of people that are investing the amount that they should be investing into retirement funds. Not saving rainy day funds, things like that. But what I can tell you is, I'm a teacher, for those of you that didn't know, and I'm able to put back each month, between 3 and 4 days worth of food preps. A mixture of Mountain House meals, other freeze-dried companies that I'm trying the stuff that they're making, rice, beans. Sometimes it's not really meals, it's more condiment based, so sugar, flour, honey, powdered milk, things like that. And y'all have seen videos of, what I've put away. Y'all have seen videos of the 5-gallon buckets. If you haven't seen this, I'm in my kitchen right now. Ignore how messy this counter is. We're deep cleaning the air fryer stuff. But most of what you can see on this table, other than my cat, is food preps of some sort. This is homemade peanut butter that a friend of mine made for me. That goes into preps. Whereas this organic creamy peanut butter, I actually don't know when we got this, but this stuff lasts an extremely long amount of time. We've had this for so long that a lot of the oily fats in it have separated, so when we do finally open it, we're going to have to shake it up, give it a good mix to mix that back into it. Only thing on here that I really could take off and not really talk much about is the 1 gallon of propane, because being able to cook these foods is extremely important. But we can look here, this is instant potatoes. I jarred them 2/26, 2022. And that was relatively low cost. Here I have a combination of different size jars of oats. This one I jarred today, haven't even put the date on it yet. Whereas this one right here in the pint-sized jar, I did November 17th of 2022. So, I jarred that right before the whole pandemic stuff started. 831, 21 flour, 831, 21 corn flour. This salt in this jar, I jarred 11. My prepping goes all the way back to being in, K through 12 school. This little bitty jar, I got at a garage sale for 10 cents. And all of the salt in this came out of salt packets from going to restaurants with my family. I did that with 2 or 3 jars of salt like this. The pint-sized jar of this size, I did the same thing with honey in high school. A little bit goes a long way, and knowing what lasts is important. But the main reason I use mason jars is once these are empty, all of these products that I have in here are dry goods products. So the jars can be reused, the same lids can be reused, it'll be just fine. I have extra jars and lids. I've got basically a 5-gallon bucket full of either one to recan and rejar different things. The Mylar bags, I mostly use that because every once in a while with my prepping, I kind of change it up. If it's in mason jars, I'm, almost nickel and diming the products. But when it's in 50-pound bags, like rice, beans, corn, things like that, every once in a while, I'll save up a couple of months worth and get it in bulk like that and spend a whole Saturday watching YouTube and bagging the stuff up. Now that football's in session, I'm typically watching college football while I do it. So it really doesn't even seem like work for me. That's the same way I treat lesson plans or planning our campouts with the Boy Scout troop that I'm with. I don't really look at it as work if I'm watching something else while I'm doing it. Football's not in session, typically watching YouTube. If it has something to do with history, I'll watch it. I'm keeping up with other preppers' videos as well because maybe they've figured out something that works really well that I haven't. I'm also watching a lot of their informational videos. I love how in-depth Bear Independence like special reports are. And sometimes I talk about the stories he's talking about because, I think it's important. But I'm also paying attention to the news on my own and, giving y'all what I think is important, what I look for. Because I think we have different levels of threat. I live in a very small town, but when it comes to self-sustainability, I've not reached that goal yet. I've got 3 fruit trees planted at my house. We've got a garden planned for the spring. But where I live, the most we could do is, 10 chickens or, a dozen breeding rabbits. And that's really about it. I have an off-grid location that is being developed, but it's not quite up to par yet. So my threat level is going to be a lot different than someone that's a bit more established in this, been in the game a little bit longer, and has created a off-grid, self-sustainable living situation. From watching his videos when the pandemic was going on, they continued their living. nothing really changed where he was. And so certain issues like that are going to raise my DEFCON level at a different rate than his DEFCON level. And so doing those kind of videos will, hopefully help you also determine what your risk tolerance level is. It's just like with stocks, it's just like with gambling or anything else you can think of. We've all created our own risk level and how much risk we're going to take. But the last thing I'll say on this is when it comes to storing food, the very first thing you should think about is store what you'll eat. You don't want to store food that you don't find edible. And then you also need to eat what you store. Not all the food that I put away has a shelf stable life of 25 plus years or 10 plus years. A lot of the things that we eat need to be rotated much more frequently. We've got our 1 month working pantry that essentially at any given point of the week, if things were to go south, then we've got that 1 month supply of food that we typically eat every single week that we would go through. Most of those meals should be shelf stable. If anything within those meals are refrigerated, then you should have some sort of backup way to keep those things refrigerated and going. So one of my backup go-to meals is, or not backup, go-to. One of my go-to weekly meals is biscuits and gravy. I'm learning how to make biscuits from scratch. Still a learning process. And at some point when I've reached my goal of self-sustainability, I'll get the sausage for it from scratch as well. But my goal by Christmas is to have, one of those small, car-sized refrigerators and the solar and battery bank to keep it running. When I say small car-sized, I'm thinking, 1 cubic foot, not much bigger than that, maybe even less than 1 cubic foot. It just kind of depends on what's available. So if you're a young prepper like myself, the way I would start off with it is doing rice and beans. It doesn't sound like the most edible meal, but with rice and beans, you're getting your major carbs, you're getting protein, and you can sustain yourself. Once you hit a 1 month supply of that, which doesn't take very long, because they're both very calorically dense, then you can start switching it up, start adding other food items. But you need to at least have, from a caloric standpoint, those two things. I modified the list and I put oats in it. So I kind of created a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. Lunch and dinner is rice and beans. Breakfast is oatmeal. Once you do that, you can expand it to where I have, instant potatoes on my list. I have freeze-dried meals on my list. I have MREs on the list. I have different types of pastas on my list. I even put just store-bought cookies on the list. And then once you hit about that 6 months worth of food, then you can start really experimenting. You can start creating that 1 month pantry. Typically with a 1 month pantry, you'll want 5 meals to basically be the same thing every single week. Or if that seems like too much, then you turn it into a 2-week food plan. So every other week, you're eating the same thing Monday night, same thing Tuesday night. And it should be things that you enjoy. So one of our new favorite go-to meals is doing these Velveeta skillets. This is the Philly cheesesteak style. You add 1 pound of ground beef, and everything else that's needed is in here. We keep about 6 boxes of these at a time, just in case we don't feel like cooking something else that we have. We just, toss one of those in. At all times, we've got 4 pounds of hamburger meat. So we've got our one that we need to go ahead and use up, and then we've got another 3 pound in there. And the same thing goes with pork chops. One of our go-to meals is pork chops, green beans, and corn. We got that in here, and then just I don't need to show you everything we got going on in there. But you should get my point. And if you don't get my point, then I'll make it simple. If you're not putting food preps away, you're leaving yourself vulnerable. And it's that simple. Your power could go out. Your city water supply could be shut down. World War III could start. Zombies could pop up. An EMP can destroy the electrical grid. All of these things pop up, and there's no telling how long the issues are going to last. It could be for a few hours. They turn the power back on. It could be for a few days. Or it could start hitting that few weeks or even months of a problem. Or it can even stretch into several years. You can look at stories from World War I and II of the rationing that we did as a nation. And if you don't want to be at the whim of, how our society is going to function, then you need to be prepared to take care of yourself. So with that being said, I'm going to keep making videos about things in the news that I think are important. The next batch of prepping items that I'm going to get is probably this coming Sunday. This video will go up on Wednesday. So I set my budget. I get paid once a month. I pay all my bills. I consider prepping one of my bills, and I'll show y'all what I get at Walmart typically. And that'll be that video. But with that being said, if you like the video, then leave a like. If you like what I'm doing with the channel, then subscribe. And if you think a friend or family member would benefit from the discussions that we're having in these videos, then share the video with them. And with that, catch you in the next one.